All right. Thank you all for making it out on a Saturday evening with us. We're so glad you're sharing this night with us. We've had such a wonderful semester this year, and I'm really excited to share with you. This is our fourth performance, I think, so we've really been able to hone our performance for you, and I'm glad you're here to share with us our final performance of the semester. And this ensemble you see before you is the Jazz B Band. I'm going to talk a little bit about this group in just a little bit. But we're going to start right off with playing you a really cool chart from the Buddy Rich Big Band. If any of you are familiar with Buddy Rich, one of the great drummers of all time. And we're going to feature on this chart, we're going to feature Mark Perez on trombone. And we'll also hear from Eric Gamboa. And this is an arrangement by one of my favorite jazz writers of all time, Bill Holman, and he arranged a Beatles tune of all things for the Buddy Rich Big Band. This is his arrangements for the Buddy Rich Big Band of Norwegian Wood. Next up, we're going to play a gorgeous ballad, not ballad, in fact. This is a bossa nova tune, kind of in the style of Antonio Carlos Jobim. However, this is composed by the great trumpet player Bobby Shew. And playing the role of Bobby Shew on this chart will be our own Eric Gamboa on flugelhorn, in fact, not trumpet, but flugelhorn. Much more mellow tone to the flugelhorn. And this is entitled Nadalin. Thank you. Like I mentioned earlier, I was going to say a little bit about this group, brag about this group, because this group, in fact, this B band, we were just at the Reno Jazz Festival a few weeks ago, both the A band and the B band. And of course, I expect the A band to get straight ones from all the judges, because if you don't know how these jazz festivals work, the bands each perform for about 30 minutes, and then there are 3 judges that give them scores of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1 being the highest, 5 obviously being the lowest, and so I only expect ones for my A band, which they paid off. They got their 3 ones. However, this band also got ones. What? Yeah, it's really exciting. This is the first year that I can remember, at least with my bands, having a B band that has scored ones at the Reno Jazz Festival. Officially, they got 2 ones and a 2, but when you put all 3 judges together, add them all up, it averages out to 1. So, and that's what matters. So we're going to move on to a tune that was actually the opener of our set in Reno. It's a really cool funk chart by the great writer Bob Mintzer, who, in fact, he's had a storied career in jazz, but he's also now running the jazz program out at USC at the moment, and he's one of the founding members of the band the Yellow Jackets, if any of you are familiar with them. And he wrote a tune for the Yellow Jackets entitled Bright Lights, and then he later arranged that tune for big band, and that's what we're going to play for you right now. And the band has had a lot of fun with this one, and we're going to feature solos on this one. We're going to hear again from Mark Perez on trombone. We're going to hear from Amir Lopez on alto saxophone, and we will also hear from Angel Lopez on the baritone saxophone. In fact, this tune is kind of our Pacifica High School feature, because every one of our soloists is from Pacifica High School. And yeah. And to brag a little bit also, you can participate in these groups as a high school student. Between these 2 bands, we have students from Pacifica High School. We got a student from the high school here at Moorpark College. We have, what else do I have accounted for? I'll remember once I see the other band. So anyways, again, this is entitled Bright Lights. We're going to move on to a really fun chart. In fact, this chart is kind of a rock shuffle, and it's written by a guy who used to be one of my professors back in the day when I was going to Cal State Northridge. He's the guy who really, along with Gary Pratt, runs the jazz program right over the hill here at Cal State Northridge. And he is also a very prolific composer, and Matt Harris used to be the pianist in Buddy Rich's big band as well. And so we decided we'd play a really well-written shuffle rock tune of his. It's entitled 17 Mile Drive. And on this one, we are going to hear from Ryan Bodley on the tenor saxophone. So, along with getting ones at the Reno Jazz Festival, we did have a few soloists recognized for outstanding musicianship. And those soloists included the soloist who you just heard, Ryan Bodley, on the tenor saxophone. It included Mark Perez on the trombone that you heard earlier twice. And also, someone who actually 2 years in a row at Reno earned 2 Outstanding Musicianship Awards, Outstanding Solo Awards. The reason being is because he played in both bands. And that is Greg Sim on the piano over there. And am I missing anybody? I think that's it for this band. I might. Hopefully I'll remember for the second half. So this next chart was the second one that we played on our sets, and it's just a great chart. I just love this chart. It's from the Count Basie Orchestra, and it's a quintessential Count Basie. It's digging in, heavy, but also a lot harder than it sounds, for lack of a better word. And it's written by the great Quincy Jones, who many of you may recognize his name. First, he started out as a great jazz trumpet player and jazz writer, wrote for the Count Basie Orchestra, and then he had his own jazz orchestra as well. And then later on decided to take a different career path, and he produced all those albums that Michael Jackson made in the 80s, and he's still out there working even to this day. And so we're going to play for you a Quincy Jones arrangement, quintessential arrangement for the Count Basie Orchestra entitled I Can't Stop Loving You. And playing the role of Count Basie on this one, even though he won't be improvising, playing the role of Count Basie will be Greg Sim on the piano. And we'll again hear from Mark Perez on the trombone. And for those of you that may be new to jazz, each of these soloists, the one thing that makes jazz so great is you never hear the same performance 2 nights in a row. Like if you went to a pop concert, everything's pre-recorded and it's all just about choreography and make sure everything's in the correct spot at the correct time. Whereas jazz is similar to, say, improvised comedy, where you go to an improvised comedy show, everything's made up off the top of your head. And same thing with jazz music. When you hear these soloists performing, they're making up the music off the top of their head. And they're interacting with those around them, with the rhythm section, with the drums, with the bass, with the piano. And to me, that's what makes jazz music so fascinating. So, again, this is I Can't Stop Loving You, arranged by Quincy Jones. I hope you all heard how deceptively hard that chart is. We worked a lot on that one to pull it off. Even though it's slow, it's not nearly as easy as it might otherwise you might think it is. But they really pulled it off and pulled it off in Reno. In fact, the clinician, when the clinician was working with them, he told them that he had done this chart with his bands at the university, and he mentioned that I was really giving them a torturous tempo. Just really slow. The slower it is, the harder it is. So we are going to finish things off now with a fun chart. It's both a swing tune and a Latin tune. It goes back and forth between both styles. It's by the great trumpet player Freddie Hubbard, and it's entitled Gibraltar. And on this chart, we're going to hear from Matt Latta on the piano. We're going to hear again. We're going to hear again from Ryan Bodley on the tenor saxophone, and we'll hear for the first time Peter Block on the trumpet. This is Gibraltar. I really don't know if it's possible to compact this much soul into one piece of music, but I think they've shown that it could, because Horace Silver was a pianist. One of his big claims to fame is he was the pianist for Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers, which was one of the innovative groups of the hard bop movement. Hard bop being the movement in the 60s, 60s, which was all about, bebop was all about basically showing your muscle, showing how high you could play, how fast you can play, pushing the register, and also how harmonically sophisticated you could play as well. Whereas this type of hard bop, what they did was they kept that tradition, but then they also infused a much heavier blues and gospel influence into the music. And so Horace Silver, after he left the Jazz Messengers, became a big hit when it comes to songwriting, having his own small group, and he's one of my favorite songwriters of all time. This is, in fact, one of my favorite tunes that he's written, entitled The Jody Grind, and then you match that with a John Clayton arrangement written for the Clayton Hamilton Orchestra, one of the top jazz orchestras out there, and you just have pure magic. Again, this is The Jody Grind, and we'll feature on this one Shauna Breda on the tenor saxophone, and we'll also hear from Carl Wiley on the trombone. So, also, how about that drum work by Parker Trent over there, huh? And I should mention, I mentioned this with our B band. Also with our A band, one of our recipients of Outstanding Musicianship Solo Award was Carl on the trombone that you just heard on that chart. We're now going to mellow things out with a chart from the Maynard Ferguson Big Band, which putting mellow out and Maynard Ferguson Big Band is, I guess, just an oxymoron. Is not something that goes together. In fact, those of you that don't know who Maynard Ferguson is, he's one of the great lead trumpet players, high screaming trumpet players of all time. And he released so many albums, it's shocking, of great music. And in fact, he retired, of all places, in the late 70s. He retired here in Ventura County. He lived in Ojai and retired. He passed away, I think, a little over 10 years ago. But he lived out the rest of his life in Ventura County. And we have a lot of jazz greats living in this area as well, which is where we should feel very fortunate about. In fact, one of which I brought in to a clinic a year ago. Glenn Zatola is his name, who used to play with Benny Goodman of all musicians, and we have a lot of great ones coming in this area. In fact, I have the opportunity, I'm lucky enough to play with Clyde Riesinger's band the first Thursday of every month. If any of you know who Clyde Riesinger is. They recently, he and his new wife moved out here to Camarillo because they like the area. He used to play lead trumpet in Maynard Ferguson's band and also in Quincy Jones' band and he's a local guy. So we've got a lot of local legends living in this area, which is really exciting, and we're very fortunate for it. So, and some new legends too. This next chart we're going to play is entitled Whisper Not, and it's a really, really fun swing tune that will feature Reed Galloway on the guitar. We'll also hear from Matt Dillon on the trumpets. And again, Amir Lopez performed with our B band. Now he's going to solo with our A band. are now going to witness something epic. The Moorpark College Jazz A Band now is, you're going to witness them take a stand against Southern white racism of the 1950s. Because there was a governor in Arkansas named Orville Faubus. And this was just after the Brown versus Board of Education decision, in which they mandated integration of the schools. But he decided he was going to bring or call on the National Guard to force segregation in the Arkansas schools. And obviously, that upset many people, specifically African Americans. And there was a wonderful, amazing jazz musician by the name of Charles Mingus, living at the time, who is a local, not is, but was a local, being raised, he was raised in the Compton-Watts area, but he's looked at now as an innovator in third stream jazz, and third stream being the combination of classical music and jazz elements in composition. And he wrote a composition around that time, which was a protest song to what was going on, entitled Fables of Faubus. And what Mingus would do in his compositions is he'd use modern classical techniques, including free improvisation, in order to make a point against or as a civil rights stance. And we're going to do that right now. And on this chart, we're going to feature Greg Sim on the piano. And we'll also hear some dueling alto saxophone and trombone solos from Hunter Richkind and Joey Crawford. This is entitled, this is Charles Mingus' great composition, and it's become, in fact, I got to say one last thing, is it's become a jazz standard, but when you listen to it, the da-da, da-da, da-da-da-da-da, you can tell he's making fun of the squareness of the white Southern people. But yet, it's now a jazz standard. So here is Charles Mingus' great Fables of Faubus. This next chart we're going to play for you, we're going to move now to a bit more, instead of a mocking vibe, now to a much more sentimental chart, which is, I think the title is very fitting because a year ago, an old friend of mine who used to attend Cal State Northridge with me, in fact, we played in the Jazz A band together at CSUN, and we even traveled to China together as on one of our trips playing in that jazz band. A year ago, in fact, it was January of a year ago, he was driving in LA from one music teaching job to another, and a couple of guys decided they saw each other and saw their dragged out cars and decided to do a drag race right in the middle of LA, and went at it, and one of the guys lost control of his car and went right through the center divider, and he caught air and ended up landing right on my old buddy and killed him instantaneously. And so it was very sad and tragic, and so we're gonna pay a little honor to his memory, because while he was alive, he wrote some really, really cool jazz charts. And one of them we're going to play for you right now. It's entitled Beautiful Love, which is a jazz standard that he arranged. And on this, we're going to feature Mark Kimrat soloing on the bass. We'll also hear from Matt Lada on the piano. And again from Hunter Rinchkind on the alto sax. Again, is Beautiful Love. This next chart we're going to play for you, I actually discovered it recently and listened to it for the first time, and I said, I've got to have my band play this chart. It's just, it's, for lack of a better term, it's quirky, but it's an amazing piece of music, in my opinion, from one of my favorites jazz composers for big band of all time, Bill Holman, who used to write for Stan Kenton's orchestra, and even we played in the B band. We played one of his arrangement of Norwegian Wood, which was written for the Buddy Rich big bands. And this piece of music we're going to play for you, it's entitled "View from the Side." In fact, won a Grammy Award in 1996 for Best Instrumental Jazz Composition. And it starts basically as a spy movie, kind of a film noir spy movie, and then evolves into a fast bebop tune, and then moves into this crazed circus march, and then kind of goes back and forth between our bebop and film noir themes, and it's a lot of fun to play. It's entitled "The View from the Side," and on this one, we're going to feature Joey Crawford again on the trombone. We will hear again from Matt Dillon on the trumpets, and again from Greg Sim on the piano. Thank you again for being a part of our nights. It's great having you here, and please keep supporting the arts in our area and just in general. It's good karma. But we have some amazing performing arts programs here. Any of you who have attended any of the musicals that are put on here, you know that these are just massive, massive events. The orchestra here is just top-notch. Last week, I conducted the wind ensemble in our concert, and we performed the entire Rimsky-Korsakov Scheherazade, which is almost an hour-long piece, and amazing piece of music, and we did a really good job. And as you can tell, the jazz ensembles are top notch. And not only do we have our music majors in here, but like I mentioned earlier, we have some very ambitious high school students in our group who can earn credits for being in a college class while they're still in high school. I mentioned we had somebody in here attending the high school at Moorpark College, playing lead alto in this group, and we also have our Pacifica High School students that carpool out here. Am I missing? Oh, and Santa Susana High School is also represented in this Jazz A band as well. And in your program, you're going to see a little note about a sad event that happened to us a few years ago. We lost our pianist in our Jazz A band in the middle of the semester from a car accident. And his mom happens to be a chemistry professor here at Moorpark College. And so a few years ago, the president of the college decided to kickstart a scholarship in his name for any students that wants to pursue an applied music associate's degree, just like Rohit Gopal, who, as I mentioned, tragically passed away. He first performed in my jazz ensemble as a high school student. Then he continued performing as a college student. I had actually written him a letter of recommendation for the Berklee School of Music out in Boston, and he got his letter of acceptance the week after the car crash. And so we are always looking to keep this scholarship going, so if anybody's interested in donating to it, please look at your program. There's instructions on how to do that, or anyone who's interested in applying that's currently a high school student that is planning on majoring in music here, come talk to me. I'll be sending out announcements too. So, anyways, so please be a part of that. It's something we're really proud of and is special to us. So we're going to close out with one more piece of music, really fun salsa tune entitled The Other One, which the band has had a lot of fun messing around with that name. Made me dread going to rehearsal at night, just knowing.
Which one are we playing?
So anyways, this chart is written by a young, pretty young, if you consider 30s, late 30s, young composer by the name of Jeremy Levy for a local band, the Budman Levy Orchestra, which is, they've got an album out that's just top-notch, killer. And so we're going to play this chart from that album. And on this Latin jazz tune, we're going to feature Tim Zarlenga on the tenor saxophone. And we're also going to see Joey Crawford trading again, but instead of trading solos with a saxophonist, he's going to trade solos with our bass trombonist, Alex Reyes, on this one. So this is entitled, lack of a better title, The Other One. Thank you. How about Matt Lotta on piano on that last one? And some crazy drum action by Parker Trent there at the very end. Nice. So, like I was mentioning earlier, look at your program. If any of you want to be kept up to date on the concerts that are happening or about registration or any of that stuff, send me an email, and I'll be happy to keep you updated on what's going on. And of course, and like I mentioned, we have high school students in here, we have college students, and we also have people with lives. Meaning families and careers and all that just want to keep coming back and playing great music. So this is, if any of you play an instrument or used to play an instrument and want to come back to playing an instrument, you are always invited. Come talk to me or email me. I'll be happy to talk to you about the opportunities we offer. So thank you again for coming, and hope to see you next time.